Hey guys, how's it going? Let's see, this guy FSMCA asked how I got the hair done so well on this little cutout. And I'm going to kind of walk you through how to do this. The traditional way of doing something like this for actual hair details is to use image calculations. Now that works great if you have like a strong studio shot where everything's crisp and clear and it's a raw image and you don't have any artifacts or anything. But in this case, it's already been processed. It's in the form of a JPEG, so if we zoom in real close on this thing, you'll see there's lots of little artifacts here, which are really going to corrupt any of the hair that we actually try and crop out. So instead of actually trying to crop out this hair, what we're going to try and do is we're going to actually redraw it by hand. Sounds like a lot of work and everything, but it's actually not. It's pretty easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of crop this image real quick just so we can focus on the hair itself. And I'm going to bring up my layers. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a very hard crop on this hair itself. And the reason why I want to do a pretty hard crop on this is because I'm going to be redrawing some of the strands in these little finer detailed areas. And because of that, I don't really want to extend his hairline more, but I want to crop it along the inside here so that I can redraw it to its actual standard position. So the first thing I'm going to do is, in this case, I'm going to use the pen tool. You don't actually have to do it with the pen tool, but I, for some reason, like to. I like the finer controls of it and everything. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So just notice that I'm staying pretty far inside of the lines on this, just so I can draw those details out later, and you'll see why in a bit. Going through. Sure, let's do that. I'm just going to ignore the fingers for now and stuff. Alright, we got that. I'm going to right click on this and do create vector mask. Oop, and that was the wrong setting up there. So there we go. That's what I want. So now if I toggle my background, you should see that it's cropped out nicely. I'm going to leave the background on black right now just so I can get a good feel for what's going on with this. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this just for shits and giggles, and also because, hey, it's always nice to be able to go back. I'm going to create a selection from this just by holding control. It'll bring up the little selection tool there. I'm going to disable that, and I'm going to make this a raster art mask. And the reason why I want to do that is because what I'm going to end up doing with this is I'm going to go over here and use my smudge tool, and I'm going to play on the actual mask itself, and that's how I'm going to kind of draw these little pieces of hair out. The first thing I want to do though is I want to blur this edge just a little bit, just to soften it so I don't have this hard line going across. And that's for a number of reasons. One is because I'm going to be drawing some little finer details within it, that it'll actually be a nice little buffer for things. The other thing is that this image itself, if you look at the original one, it's not all that much in focus, so blurring the edges is always going to be a nice thing to do anyway. So let's do that. I'm going to just increase this a little bit. And all the way down. Cool. So now we have a good sense of, a line here. And so I'm going to go to my smudge tool, and I'm going to set it to lighten. And the reason why I'm going to set it to lighten is if we actually look at the layer mask itself, I'm holding down Alt here, which will isolate the layer mask. The white is obviously what's going to be opaque, and then the black is going to be what's transparent. So when I'm doing this little smudge tool, a lot of times I'm going to be rounding it out and going back in to it as well, just to kind of get that natural flow of hair. And this way, if I click down here and I pull in, it won't actually do anything, and it won't actually take away any of the hair, which is not what I want. If I were to set this to normal and do this little arc thing, notice it creates this little black line in here, which is not what I want in any case, because that'll look weird and it'll be like some piece of thing missing from his head. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to lighten, and I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to get rid of this because I don't need that. And I'm just using this layer mask to really define where the hair is. And I'm also looking, so notice right in here, right in his cowlick, there's a little bit of hair that's kind of sticking out. So I'm going to use that just to create a few stray strands kind of going around. And this is all I'm doing, is just kind of recreating the natural flow of his hair using this this smudge tool. And if you do it a bunch of times, at first it looks a little bit weird and stuff, but after a while it'll start to look like a natural kind of hairline. So we're doing that, doing that, doing that. Alright, yeah. So now let's pretend we did that entire thing. We didn't, but whatever. The next thing we need to do is, if you actually look at a lot of these strands in here, they're going off into the grass, which is not what we want. If I disable this layer mask real quick, you'll see that this area right here that I'm unmasking is actually green, which is obviously not the color of his hair. So all I'm going to do in that case is I'm going to grab my little brush tool. I'm going to hold down Alt and just kind of select a point in his hair to see what color we can get. And once I have that, I'm going to go up here, make sure it's on hue, and put the flow down a little bit low. And I'm just going to go and color on the original image. I'm going to disable the layer mask just so you can see real quick. And all I'm doing is I'm just kind of coloring the outside of this, where these little strands are, into the color of his original hair. Now we don't need it to match exactly. We just need it to kind of look like it's the same color. And so I'm just going to go through here, get rid of all that green that we had. And there's no more green. Cool. It looks awesome. Yeah. So now that the coloration is right, the next thing we need to make sure is that the luminosity is right. So I'm going to go back to my background, hit Control-I again so that it actually inverts it, and then we can see it against this background. And notice up here where this hair is really blooming, there's a little bit of a dark spot over here. And that's because if we look at the image again, it's where like this kind of shadowy area is or whatever, but hey. Doesn't, yeah, we can easily fix that. Just go into our dodge tool right here, go up to the layer again, and all I'm doing is I'm just dodging that particular area. I'm not going to make it completely white because I'm going to leave a little bit of detail in there, so even against light backgrounds you'll still be able to see some of these strands. But for the most part, I'm going to kind of make sure it's really white, just so that it really matches the rest of his hair in that area. And that's pretty much it. That's all you really need to do to get that really crisp, clean looking hair. And next thing you probably want to do, especially in this case since it's a little bit blurry, is I'm just going to go through with a very, very low strength blur and just kind of blur a little bit of this hair together just so it matches the rest of the image. But that's all you're really going to need to do. And then, yeah, so once you finish that, you should get a really good, nice crop of that hair. Yeah. So that's it. Any other questions, feel free to ask me, but that's the whole thing.